So I am going to slowly make my way through the Bookmark Manager. And I'm not sure how long this will take, but I'll probably do it in a few different parts. And I assume I've got about 40 minutes now, so I'll probably see how far I can get with the challenges. Hopefully up to around 10 or 11. And we'll do a couple more recordings later. So I'm going to start entirely from scratch and just go through it and try and talk my way through it. And let's see how we go. It might be a little bit more rough already, but let's just see what happens. I'll probably look a bunch of things up as I go through it and try and talk about some of the choices that I make. Overall, this is something that I wouldn't expect you to be doing after sort of this unit, so directly using the library of code called PG to access your database. You'd be using a third-party gem. For a relational database, most likely Active Record. There are a few out there that you can choose to use. So this is mostly a learning tool with more of a bottom-up approach, just of actually figuring out how does this work. We haven't really looked inside the black box that is the PG gem itself, but just using it to connect to the database. Opening up a connection and writing commands. So let's just go through it and see how we do. I'm going to try and fast forward through some of them. So I probably won't look at too much of the steps here. What I need to do is essentially set up a web project, view some bookmarks, create a database, and just do a bunch of things here. So I'll probably just set it up as quick as I can, and then double check that I'm sort of like on the right lines. So absolutely empty project. So let's just start off as we normally do. Let's add a few things into it. So we'll need RSpec. We need, what else do we need? Probably Capybara, probably Sinatra. I might have to add more things later. Okay, so I'm setting up a web project. So let's create an app folder. Let's create a config file for Rackup. Let's keep it in just one file for the moment. I'll probably split this out later. Let's keep it super simple. And here I'm going to require Sinatra base and require, let's leave that for the moment, and class Bookmark Manager. And this is going to inherit from Sinatra base. So here I'm going to have to require my app, and then I want to run Bookmark Manager. That's essentially my small little app at the moment. And let's initialize RSpec to make sure we can start writing some tests for any behavior that we want. So bundle exec RSpec, and then let's initialize it. Cool. Probably going to try and get rid of most of this stuff. Should I just get rid of most of it? Let's just get rid of most of it. Yeah, I don't need to, let's not worry about it too much. Here I want to require, I guess, let me look up the documentation for Capybara. Capybara setup Sinatra. Oh, that's not how you spell Sinatra, it's fine. Setup. that's kind of what I want in here. I need to require Bookmark Manager, and therefore I need to require my app. Oh. Cool. Probably actually want this to load. That's fine. Okay. Cool. Let's leave that for the moment. Got a few bookmarks. Okay, assuming I'll have a test database set up, won't I? So I could probably shortcut a bunch of those steps. Okay, so let's write a test to help us drive development. Let's create features folder. Rename it features unit. Yeah, that's fine. Feature unit. And let's just say view bookmarks spec.rb. Okay, so let's require our spec helper. Let's feature viewing bookmarks, and here we want to do a scenario where viewing bookmarks are on the page. So we visit, let's say we visit bookmarks, and I expect page to have content. We've got no bookmarks, do we? So I guess what we could do is say let's bookmark b, and then bookmark dot create, and then with a URL, right? URL is like, you know, test URL, and I want to evaluate straight ahead. So let's do a let bang. So then I want to say something like how you expect page of content bookmark dot URL. So there's a few things that will force me to do. I have to test drive a create method, probably also test drive an all method for my bookmark, and that when I visit the bookmarks page, I expect to have just that content on the page. So I also have to make sure that I'm destroying or deleting my tables as well. So there's a few things we're going to have to do to get this to work. But let's just see it fail. For the moment, there's hopefully a bunch of failures that will happen. Yeah, cool. Let's just go ahead and caban it. Okay, initialize constant bookmark. Give me Bookmark Manager. So here, let's create a unit test. Unit, and here let's do a bookmark spec. Oh, I need the PG gem, don't I? Before I forget, bundle add PG. Bookmark spec. Okay, so this is I've got to require source code. So this is going to be in the bookmark will be a model. So it'll be in my app folder. So require app models bookmark. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Then I want do describe. That's how I write feature unit test in Ruby. Describe bookmark do, and then we're going to describe the create method, or all method. Oh, create method first, right? That's the one that we have to do. Describe all, and it returns an array of bookmark instances. Let's say that. So setup is, well, why did I say all? I just said I wanted to do the create method. Okay. It returns, say, a bookmark instance. That is, what's just make like it's persisted. So I don't like the name, but it's fine. I might change the name of this test later. Okay, so setup for this, I don't need much setup. I just do something like bookmark.create, and then URL is test URL, and then I could probably save it here, right? Bookmark, expect bookmark. Interesting. Okay, expect bookmark dot ID. Oh, I don't want to insert on the actual ID, do I? I hope it to not be nil. That would be nice. No, because any ID will be valid. So how do I create an effective test at the moment for the way that we're writing this? I want this to create data in the table, so I don't actually have to like pull it out again, right? So yeah, maybe we'll have to do it that way. Let's do it a simple way then. I don't really like that, but fine. Bookmark.all bookmarks is equal to bookmark.all expect bookmarks. Let's look at the first one. To equal, no. The first one, URL to equal test URL. That might be enough for the moment. Okay, clearly it's going to force doing this one, so maybe let's write that one first. Which means I need to insert some data without using another method. All right, so at this point I need to actually figure out how to write this database connection object thing. So let's have a look. This one. This one, maybe. Here we are, okay. Connect. So connection PG, we'll have to require the gem probably, but let's do that in our spec helper. Require PG. And connect to the database. And let's call this Bookmark Manager. Let's put a demo in front of it, just to make sure. And let's do a development. Long name. Oh, demo Bookmark Manager development. No, this is our test. Please give me a test database. For the moment. Until we figure out how to make it more dynamic, which we'll do later. Okay, so we're going to connect the database and db name but manager test. I haven't created it yet. I will do. And then I want to do something like connection.exec and then insert into bookmarks, values. I have to remember how to write this in a second. You take care of the IDs, I'll do the URL, and the URL is going to be something like test URL. Double check. Insert into table. Great. Insert into column 1, column 2, column 3. Insert into bookmarks. Columns. Oh, we just need to set brackets here that says the column names. URL. Will it do the ID for me? Should do the ID for me, right? Well, we'll see. If not, I'll have to add a column. Insert into bookmarks, URL, values, test URL. That adds in some data, so I don't need to do the create method. This clearly is not going to be in here, it's going to be in the describe. All do returns a bookmark. Here is the create returns a list, an array of bookmarks. Connect the database, insert into it, and then we call all, and we expect the first one, the URL, to equal the thing that we put into it. Okay, so let's not worry about this one for the moment. I just want to run this test. And okay, so we'll need to set up a database, create database. In this case, it's going to be demo bookmark manager. Test. Okay, shall we really use this? Okay, fine. And then I'm going to connect to it, and I need to create table. Can I find a better way of creating first table? ID, columns, serial primary key, and URL of varchar. Okay. Let's remember how to do this. Create table, column 1, data type. Really? Create table, bookmarks. And then we have column 1, ID, data type for column 1. Is it what? 1 ID serial primary key like this, and then does it have to be in strings? Is it? I don't know. URL, which is a variable character type, length 60. Okay, looks like that worked. Let's double check, select everything from my bookmarks table, and I have an ID, I have a URL, and that looks like it's fine. Okay, in the same way I want to create my development database, so let's, oh, clearly none of that is fine, so let's quit from this. Let's create db demo bookmark manager development, and log in back into PSQL, connect to demo and then development, and then create the same table. And so I have now two tables, one table in my development database, one table in my test database. So let's go back. Setting up a database, creating I'm all doing this because I'm trying to make sure this will work. So when it gets to here, it wants to connect to this database, my test database, insert into it, retrieve all the bookmarks, and then assert that the first one is test URL. So let's run this test. And bundle exec rspec. And specifically, I want my spec unit bookmark spec. That's what I'm doing, right? Yes, and app models, because I clearly haven't written anything. Okay, models bookmark.rb. Class bookmark, and here I'm trying to write a all method. Expect bookmarks up first, undefined method first for nil class. So the bookmarks is not returning anything because all returns nothing. So let's double check in PSQL. I'll get my client up actually, graphic one, pSQL, bookmark demo bookmark manager test in this case, and content. There's nothing here. Why is there nothing here? Bookmark demo bookmark manager test. Oh, I haven't used this until last year. And select everything from bookmarks. Okay. Why wasn't it? What? I'd assume it's in the content, it'd be there. This version of PSQL, clearly this is not the right UI to use, but I'll leave this up here for the moment. Okay, so yeah, the idea is done automatically. That's fine. Okay. Edward, what are you doing? We need to test write that method, yes. So still driving development through this, connected, inserted it, and so I should be able to pull it back out. I want to make sure, if I run this test again, I'm going to add more bookmarks, aren't I? So I should actually probably clean my database. Look, they just popped up again. So let's make sure this is happening nicely. So let's create a little support folder to house any additional things that we need to run our tests, and we'll require it here. Let's do a require relative this time because we're right here. And let's go support, and this will just be like, I don't know, database cleaner .rb. So that's new file, database cleaner .rb. So here, what I want to do is what I want to do is something like rspec.configure, and then we pass a block of code where we pass the config option through, and then do something like config before each test do, and then we want to how do I truncate a table? I've got to connect to it, right? Ooh, am I closing my connections? How do I close my connections to the database? Postgres Ruby, con close. And I probably actually want to always wrap it to grab any error messages. So let's update that actually. Where am I doing this? In my unit test. Okay, yeah, I need to wrap it in this block. Rescue any, and then ensure that we close. Yeah, fine. Interesting. Go away. Yeah. Do. Okay. Let's grab that and go back to here, and we're going to connect to our test database, and we're gonna not do this. We're going to say something like, I don't know what, truncate bookmarks, something like this. Let's have a look. Truncate table SQL. Drop table. I don't want to drop. Truncate table categories. So truncate table. All right, so everyone will just truncate the table. Any error messages it will catch and send it to output, and otherwise close the connection. Same way here, we're doing the insert. Cool. So run my test again. I should only have one undefined method connection. Yeah, double check. Oh, yep. If connection. Just this one, please. What? Do I save it? Line 5. No. Line 9. Connection, because you're just copy pasting. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Back to where I was. Let's double check here. Should not only have one because I'm cleaning it every time. Nice. Okay, so we're still at the place where we're trying to get to, which is some methods here. Okay, so let's grab this block of code that we're doing to connect. At some point I need to extract this because it's all just quite messy still. Here we're going to go to development, but not development. We don't need to, so really I need to start doing something like I guess we could do env, and then I don't know, whatever you want to call it. A lot of times we use this key. You can use any kind of key that you want. This is quite a common one. You can use the environment key, or whatever you want. And as a result, I probably should specify then in my spec helper that here it's going to equal test. And as a result, if it always runs here my test, I guess in my controller, the top of the file is fine. Let's say if it hasn't already been set, then set it. Because I want to do it that way because if in my spec helper, I do it first, then require the app. So if I set it, then it won't get set in the controller. This is a conditional assignment. So because I've done my databases with test at the end of it, I can just use that to interchange in between them. If I run it, just this file will be development. So now I can go back and say, it's such an irritating thing about the difference between single and double quotes, but fine. So env, and then rack env. Let's just grab that anywhere else that we need it to. Yeah, here. Okay. Boom and boom. So that should still be working. We connect to the right database and we'll go back to the bookmark. If we connect to the right database, we don't want to truncate the tables. We want to select everything from our bookmarks table. And we'll store the results here. And then we want to go through the results and map, I guess, bookmarks. Let's just, rows, much better. Okay, therefore row, not just rows. We're going to return a result, we'll map through it, and we'll call new, because we'll write a thing in a second, and then we'll do something like ID is row ID, maybe something like this. URL is row URL. Okay, back to my unit test in a second. My unit test says I'm going to insert data directly into the table, and then I want to call all, and I should have an array of instances that I call, get the first one in the array, call it with your URL, and I should get test URL. So in which case I need to have this URL method. So if I have my class method there, I guess we have an initialize method, which we have an ID and a URL, and we want to be able to have ID as ID and URL as URL, and we're going to have an attribute reader on them, so we're going to do something like attribute reader on ID and URL. Okay, let's run the test. We expected the first bookmark.url to equal testurl.nil. All right, time to debug. So let's p the row, and I get ID and URL as 5, so they are strings, not symbols. ID and URL. Cool, that passed. It's temporary skipping that one, so if I want to actually see it, let's add in, where's my .rspec format documentation, please. I just want to see all of it all the time. Returns an array of bookmarks. Let's remove that from, where's that log statement that I have in here probably. Boom. So messy, but we'll get there. Okay, return all returns an array of bookmarks, create. Let's now do our create method. Unit bookmark spec, and let's get there. Ooh, let's reactivate that one. Create bookmark.create with a URL, and we retrieve all of them, and we set the first one to be test URL. Okay, so this is now a little bit like this method, but Trying to actually make sure this is working. Now, ideally, I'd really want to like test that it's persisted, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I'm just going to focus on this. So let's have a create method. Def self dot create. I guess we're doing pretty much the same thing, so I'm just going to grab all of this and yeah, fine. It's not going to be a select, it's going to be an insert. It's pretty much exactly going to be what I had before, so let's grab it. In the bookmark and put it here. Insert into bookmarks URL test URL. Let's say test create URL, just to make it a little bit different. I don't need to map through it. For the moment, I'm just doing an insert. That's the only thing this is doing. Fine. What? I don't want to do it this way. No, it takes an argument, doesn't it? URL, like that. And then I go something like, leave those things there and go like URL. Okay, easier than I thought. So into bookmarks, I'll use URL. That should have been in my test thinking about that, but it doesn't really matter. Create, test URL, test URL. Just because, let's double check. Cool, all returns an array of bookmarks. Create returns a bookmark instance that is persisted. Okay, so I have a bookmark that can create data into a table and retrieve it. So let's go back to my feature spec now. View bookmarks. Should now run my feature test. View bookmark spec. Bookmark. Bookmark. So it doesn't know what bookmark is. So if I require the spec helper, the spec helper requires the app. The app, therefore, needs to require my model. So require models and then bookmark. Cannot find let's go require relative, because that clearly the locale is not set up properly. Undefined method URL for PG results. Okay, nice. So we're creating our bookmark. But this is the wrong way to have done it, because I'm not saving an instance in here. So really instead, rather than, which is really what I want to do at some point, but we'll get there later. So here it just needs to be something that gets executed beforehand. So let's do a before block. And yeah, fine. Undefined method bookmark, clearly that's correct. So in this case, I just have to now be explicit. Cool. Expected to find test URL, but it's not there because I don't actually have any root handlers for this. So now let's go to my controller and have a method for get bookmarks, and unable to find capybara element not found. So instead what I need to do is have all the bookmarks, I guess, bookmarks, because we use locals, right? So really what I want to do is get ERB to render an index page, a bookmark, index bookmarks, index.erb. Yeah, I can't remember how you do it. Can I do it this way with views and then into a file called bookmarks and have the index? I don't know. I can't remember. And then as a second argument, I want to pass in locals, which is going to be a hash and a key value pair where I want the key here to be bookmarks, and I want to have bookmark.all. So let's create in my app folder a view file, the view folder, views, and another one called bookmarks. And in bookmarks, I'm going to have an index file, index.erb, where I just want to loop through. So let's start off with a div, and let's embed some Ruby. That's like bookmarks dot each bookmark. Edward, write Ruby. Bookmark. And then I've got to close it. And that's my loop. So then I go through and say, let's be super simple at the moment, and we'll just create little paragraph elements for each one. And we're going to have bookmark.url. Just a bunch of URLs on the page. Super simple to begin with. Bookmarks is going to come from the controller. So let's have a look. Viewing bookmarks are on the page. Cool. All right. So let's have a quick look at what we've done so far. 92, 92. And go to bookmarks. Uninitialized constant bookmark. I've rescued the error. Line 9 in bookmark. Line 9. Okay, so here is where I have to make sure I have the gem. Cool. Okay. I have no bookmarks because I don't have a form and I don't have a database to add into it. Okay, so let's let's do that form. Let's put the form at the top of the page, and here we're going to go to our bookmarks root by post, and we need an input field, and we need a submit button. Type submit, and we don't need name and value here. We need a value of what we're going to call it, like, I don't know, save. But I haven't written my feature test for this, so here, let's grab that and write my feature test for it. So feature, create bookmarks, spec.rb. I'm going to require my spec helper. I'm going to create my feature test, and this is going to be creating bookmarks. And I'm going to scenario can add a bookmark and see it on the page. So here I go to visit bookmarks. I'm going to fill in URL. Let's call it bookmark URL. With www.test.com, and then I want to click button save. It's just got no, not that one. I haven't written it yet, so what I want to do is called save. It's fine. Create bookmark spec, visit bookmarks, fill in bookmark URL with test.com, click button save, and then I make my expectation that says expect the page to have content test.com and expect page dot current path. I want it to redirect, so I want it to stay on the same one. So let's make sure it's on the same one. Yeah, okay. So let's watch it fail. That's a view one, Edward. Create. Cool. So failing feature test, so I need to add the form so I can actually click on the buttons. So here is now, sure, let's just add it back. Save, action, bookmarks, post. I'll keep it class X, I can't bother, I'll maybe style it at some point. Input text, submit, save. So can fill in the thing, but I can't, there's no root handler for the post request. Fill in bookmark URL, I clearly haven't written that very well. Fill in name, no, because name is going to, yeah, that's why I do need a name, don't I? Name is bookmark URL. Yeah, because that's going to be sent over as form data. Cool, all right, so now we write our post request, our post route. So where's the controller? Post to bookmarks. And here we're going to do the insert, so we'll do something like bookmark.create URL with params and get the bookmark URL, and then we want to redirect to bookmarks. Cool. So let's rack it up and see what we've got. Now we have form, save, and we see it on the page. Cool. So I've sped my way through creating bookmarks. That's the first 10, and 11 maybe. The next section that I'll do will be doing delete and update, going through and extracting. I probably might extract it first, then delete and update, and then I'll do probably the rest in validating, and then the relationships, and then doing the last one, doing registration authentication. So that's it for this session, and hope you've enjoyed watching me speed through this. Bye for now.